Hello and welcome to Castar Reviews, and I hope everyone is enjoying the holiday season. The finale of the Banjo Kazooie retrospective is here, and Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is a divisive game to say the least. For context, after the first two Banjo games came out in the late 90s, there was a bit of a lull in production that was partly because of Rare's acquisition by Microsoft. After skipping out on the OG Xbox, Banjo and Kazooie made their return to gaming in 2008 on the 360. Suffice to say, people were excited, but then that turned into anger when the first new game in years ended up being a car spinoff. But, is it as shitty as people say it is? Let's find out. Without further ado, this is Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. The story begins by bringing us to our former heroes, who appear to really let themselves go. This takes place 8 years after the ending of Banjo Tooie, so the duo are a bit older. They then run into Log, the Lord of Games, my least favorite character in this entire video game. Log is essentially a video game god, and he's constantly ripping on the previous Banjo games and other failed Rare properties. He gives Grunty, who also happened to be there, a robot body. He then proposes a challenge to the enemies. If Banjo and Kazooie defeat Grunty in his world Showdown Town, then Grunty has to work in his factory forever. If Banjo loses, he and Kazooie have to toil in the factory. How do you defeat Grunty, you ask? Driving cars and collecting Jiggies from all new worlds. Much like the previous two games, Grunty is defeated and the day is saved. Nothing more to say than that. The story is alright considering the franchise, but I really don't like Log. It's a dick move to create a character that's not even the main villain and have one of its personality traits be shitting on your company. While Rare might have thought of it as some funny self-deprecation, it comes off as taking jabs and putting down your core fanbase. The other characters are pretty funny and exciting. Kazooie still does her thing, i.e. be really sassy, and Banjo plays the straight man character really well. The story's alright, but it won't win any awards. Whatever flaws this game may have, it most definitely looks great. I really like the art style. It feels like a natural evolution from the early 3D models of the 90s. The character designs, though, with the exception of the bear and bird and Grunty, are simply not good. To go with the car theme, Mumbo, Humba, and Bottles have been dressed up as mechanics. Doesn't really feel right to me, and Log's design is just trying too hard to be referential. The world designs are great, though. Just about every world is the theme you rarely see in platformers. My favorite is the Logbox 720, an obvious homage to the Xbox 360. There are a lot of references to other Rare properties, but for some reason this game has a vendetta against Grab by the Ghoulies. I get that the game didn't sell really well, but they shit on it all the time, and I have no idea why. But while the themes are great, the game worlds are empty and shallow. There's nothing else to do other than complete quests. There should be a ton more side quests in addition to getting Jiggies, because the space just feels wasted here in these expansive hub worlds. The parts you use to create vehicles are interesting, and the game uses a grid-based system which makes things streamlined. You can also change the color of parts if you want to pimp your ride. The hub world, Showdown Town, is your typical town area that's actually bigger than you think. There's a wide variety of areas to drive around in and secrets to discover. The music is also great, even though most of the OST contains remixes of previous Banjo Kazooie songs. The tracks specifically made for this game are good too, but the remixes are so much better that they overshadow the original tracks. Lastly, the sound design is hit and miss. The car crash sounds, engine noises, and other sound effects serve their purpose, but there are moments where sound effects just don't play. Thankfully, these moments are few and far between. The voice acting is still the same guttural noises, but I doubt that was ever going to change. All in all, the presentation is pretty good, and I think that Banjo and Kazooie made the transition to HD consoles mostly unscathed. Okay, this is the sticking point for me. The structure is the same as previously. You go through worlds and complete tasks to collect shit. But the tasks you complete are the reason why I'm not so high in this game. It all involves creating your own vehicle or having one provided for you and doing one of either pick up an object and put it somewhere or race with other CPU players. The objects you pick up and type of race you complete may change, but that's it. It's so boring and so repetitive. It also doesn't help that this game has the most Jiggies out of the three main Banjo games with 131, so it's just that more grating. Don't get me wrong, I love a good racing game, but Nuts and Bolts took a wrong turn somewhere and lost what makes Banjo Kazooie games fun. There's no exploration to find Jiggies, you just find a quest giver and complete their tasks, simple as that. Everything is timed, and to get a Jiggy you need to do it in a quick enough time. There are also trophies that you get if you beat the level faster than Jiggy requirement, and those get you Jiggies if you trade them into the hub world. Another thing I'm not a fan of is the car creation mechanic as a whole. I'm shit at making cars, and while I can appreciate the depth of the creator, it simply is not my thing. One thing this game could have really used is a way to download blueprints a la Mario Maker or Forza Horizon 4. You can sort of do this off the challenge leaderboards, but not everyone posts their blueprints. It's nice to give non-creative types like myself a way to still enjoy the game. The controls themselves are pretty good, no weird button placements or anything, and on the ground, Banjo and Kazooie are fun to control. Notice the wording. The driving physics are all kinds of fucked up. When you're driving and there are no obstacles in the way, the driving is fine, but cars can either overreact to running over rocks, or just don't do what you want them to do. Vehicles don't feel like they have weight to them on the road, but if you're flying or boating, they can sometimes be too heavy. The final few gripes come from collecting as a whole. Once you obtain a Jiggy, you have to get it out of a vending machine in the hub world and put it in a bigger machine to officially add it to the total. This mechanic of banking Jiggies is actually a microcosm of everything I don't like about nuts and bolts. Ideas and mechanics that work well in the past being pushed aside to unnecessarily shoehorn in new ideas like Kazooie's wrench. On that note, Kazooie's wrench is actually one of the more fun objects to use since you can pick things up and move them around. It can also be used as a weapon, but I rarely did that. I also like how the worlds are structured. It's not a free-for-all like before. Each world is cut up into acts a la Sonic. If all you're here for is to collect Jiggies, then this makes things a lot more streamlined. But I do wish the acts changed how the world looks as opposed to having the exact same layout every time. While I can enjoy some of the driving challenges that Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts has to offer, it still leaves a lot to be desired. While this may be an alright racing game, it wholeheartedly fails as a Banjo Kazooie game. I went into this thinking that it wasn't going to be as bad as people say, and I was right, it isn't. But when you sign up to play a Banjo Kazooie game, this is not going to cut it. I do not want to end my YouTube career on a low note, so next time I'm reviewing Banjo Kazooie's spiritual successor, Yooka-Laylee. Thank you for watching this episode of Castar Reviews, subscribe for more content from me, and follow me on Twitter for production updates. See you next time for Yooka-Laylee.